Hello and welcome to this episode of Planet Patrick from a laundromat in Iceland.
In the last video, I was in Seville, Spain. For some context, this short series about being a digital nomad revisits late 2022 and early 2023 when I was on the road while working for a corporate client in the UK. By the end of this video, I'll fly to Canada via Iceland and Boston. But first, work brought me to London, Edinburgh and Dublin to visit friends.
Hello! On our way to dinner!
Here's a quick recap of locations, but in this video I'll spend most of my time in Reykjavik with a little bit of Boston and Calgary. Next morning I took off for Iceland. And if you think I'm travelling too much during this period, you're probably 100% right. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I got COVID, although I tested negative. I made a separate flight review of this Icelandair flight, and I'll pop the link in the description below for you.
Once you reach arrivals, you can pick up your car here if you've got a hire car, get a taxi, private car service, or get one of the many buses.
Honestly, I went straight to my hotel and didn't leave again until I went looking for medication.
Look, I went outside. Yay! I spoke to the pharmacist, but I got Benylin, and he said to take loads of aspirin, and it would reduce whatever the inflammation is in my sinuses and chest. So I will try this.
I don't know whether it was the fever, but clearly I was thinking a lot about minimalism, that is, not carrying too much stuff.
It feels pretty obvious to say that digital nomads, by their very nature, are de facto minimalists. After all, you can only travel with so many things in your carry-on or checked bag. However, to be a digital nomad means carrying your tech with you, that's the digital bit, and traveling, that's the nomad bit. Item 1. The philosophy of minimalism. The idea of minimalism carries something of an undertone of the philosophy of Zen or essentialism, that by shedding possessions, we in some ways really find ourselves. That's not an idea to be dismissed out of hand. The cost of ownership. If you live a static life, then all the stuff that you own is probably with you in the house that you rent or own. If you're like me, you might have shifted a lot of your stuff into storage, and you travel with a case full of things that you need until the next time that you go back to the storage unit and switch everything out. There's a bit of a simple calculation that I've started to do that tells me that this is completely bonkers. You buy the item, you use the item, you pack the item, you put it in a box in storage, you take it out and it's a couple of years later and you decide to donate it. So the initial cost of that item is ramped up by your monthly storage fee. Perhaps by a small portion of it, but it's still ramped up. Given the quality of some of the things that I'm storing, the storage cost is probably more than I paid for the item first time around. In fact, it might have been more sensible to give those things away. If we think about the total cost of ownership, is it worth really storing your stuff? Look, I'm somebody who is using a storage unit, and I think what I'm doing is crazy. If we come back to that idea of minimalist essentialism, that you're trying to get rid of stuff, you literally would be stripping out everything that you don't need. And that's kind of not the point of what I'm talking about. Digital minimalism, as I see it, is having the best quality version of the item that you want to have in your bag. You should have the best computer that you can afford so that you're able to meet what your client requires. So why should things be any different in what you're carrying for your own body? Since I only do carry on, the way that I've worked things out is that I need 8 days worth of clothes. After 1 week, I'm wearing my 8th outfit and the rest goes into a laundromat to get washed and cleaned. Know what you can get away with on airlines. I've started using one of these Belroy slings as my everyday carry, but also if you're careful, this will not count as one of your personal items. I wear a small rucksack, I take a rolly bag, and this is my third bag. I don't wear it like this and I'm like, here's my third bag. I tuck it round the back, put my rucksack over it, and then it looks like I'm only carrying 2 bags.
After a few days recovering from the virus, I set off for a short stop in Boston before finding the snow again in Calgary, Alberta.
I've clearly chosen somewhere very cold for this weekend. Thank you, Canada.
Do you think corporations really like people working remotely?
There's been a bit of a boom in people who work remotely
particularly since the pandemic. That proved to businesses and workers that the jobs that needed to be done could be done remotely, as long as the worker had access to the appropriate technology. Some workers asked themselves the question, if they could work from home, could they just not work from anywhere? That was an idea already embraced by the first wave of digital nomads. Usually people who worked freelance, running their own small businesses. What differentiates a home worker and a digital nomad is that element of travel. The world of digital nomads has evolved into, I think, 3 groups. First, digital nomads who work remotely for an employer, doing their regular job on the road, and their employer doesn't mind where their worker is. 2. Digital nomads who run their own freelance business, selling their skill set to multiple clients. 3. Digital nomads who run their own web-based ecosphere, perhaps a blog or a YouTube channel about their life and travel. While escaping the office and the ties of home might sound like a dream to many of us, travel is fun if you do it occasionally, but if you're going to spend every single weekend finding the next plane and you need to be ready to work Monday at 9 a.m, that becomes exhausting pretty quickly. Having said that, I don't think anyone is crazy for wanting to try out a completely different lifestyle. Yes, there are balances that you need to achieve in order for your life to function as you want it to. But I can tell you this. Full-time travel as a digital nomad expands the mind in ways you can't begin to dream about, because you're meeting people, seeing places, tasting foods that you would have no opportunity to do if you stayed put. Hello, I'm in Calgary and I've been shopping with my friends. They found a delicious stationery shop, and you know, above all things, I love stationery. Up first in the bag, these beautiful dot print books by Japanese producer Midori. I picked up the light blue and the light grey, both of which have bronze stenciling on the front. You may well know that my favourite option is the Dingbats dot print A5 journal. The only problem with this journal is that it's a little bit big to carry in my Belroy sling. The Midori notebooks, on the other hand, should fit in pretty well. I've already got plenty of things in here, but this soft cover Midori book slips in very, very neatly and doesn't add much to the overall weight of the sling. After all of that excitement, from Spain to the UK, Ireland, Iceland, the US and Canada, I started the trek back to Europe on Air Canada. Back to life, back to reality.
Thanks so much for being here right to the end of today's episode. Until the next one, take care. Bye-bye.